can go for look for the class or methods. In this you are accessing the Chrome driver, right?
Yeah.
This that they were implemented. If you look at the line number 20, we call this object. This is nothing, it's just a documentation for you to understand what is Chrome driver class is doing. But you don't have to know what its implementation. This is somebody has created a code for you in the background. That is already you brought it through library. Okay? This is for you to understand. You can go and refer here what Chrome driver is doing. But for as long as for us, if you know how to create a Chrome driver object, good enough. That's all. Line number 20, if you know what line number 20 does, when you run on the Chrome and when you run on IE Explorer, you need to change that to Internet Explorer. When you run on the Firefox, you have to change it to Firefox.
R20 is different.
It's up to you.
See, okay, you were 14th line, right? I was doing some modification.
Like driver, like maybe 16 are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about 16, you are right. 15.
15.
Yeah, do comment this out. We'll go one at a time. Okay. So far we have learnt until this. Comment this out. We'll remove comment one at a time and do it. Okay. Can you do all the comments? You know how to do it, right? But why line number is different? Oh, got it. Because I commented here.
Yeah, comment.
Yep. And commented, I added a new code here. I'll remove this so that I avoid confusion for you guys.
Oh yeah, you can already see the text. Probably makes sense.
Dan said he is going to be back. We'll start, right? Or we'll wait for him.
No, Daniel is not coming.
He said he's going to come. He said he'll be back. I don't know at what time he'll be
This
back.
stuff is here.
He's over there, the next room.
Oh.
Oh, okay. You let him finish up lunch. If he's having lunch, let him finish.
He's not eating. Nobody said he was coming back to the other one. That's why he's in.
Oh.
Yeah. He probably doesn't know we're starting yet.
So, so far, do you guys understood these 3 line items? 14, 15 and 16. That is set property, creating an object driver, then calling a URL.
So that's what we're supposed to do for every project, right?
Yeah, every project, it could, for you, if you are doing on
It's up
Firefox
to driver.
driver, you need to change first
Yeah,
thing.
that's one.
Then you need to change this class. If you are using the Firefox, you need to change the Firefox, like for example, if you are doing for Firefox, right? Where is this?
You gave us the list earlier, right?
Yeah, I'm going there actually. Okay. If you are doing for Firefox, I will copy this code. Firefox, go back to this, and I replace this with Firefox. Firefox driver. So, and I'll go and when I do this.
We should have on the driver's directory there too.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Awesome. Yes, that's well. So not only having this is good enough for you. You have to bring this Firefox driver too. Go back to the same website.
No, I need to find Firefox.
You have Firefox, right? Mozilla driver. You have to get this one. You have to download for the whichever the version, then put it in the same directory, and it should work. You can take this as an exercise at home if you want to do explore with Firefox. You can do that. Okay? We'll move it with other concepts. Okay? That's a good point.
But you need to also change on the line 14 also?
Line 14, you need to change, yes.
Yeah.
The
So
file
the
name you
Chrome
have to
driver
change.
is going to be,
Yes, you need to change the
Firefox.
yes, exactly. You need to change that, yes.
okay.
Yeah. So then, and you are clear with this, right? What it's doing, driver is what?
Web driver. Which you just created?
Yes, what is that? What is
Object.
actually it is?
Object.
Exactly, that's an object. And what is this?
Method,
Method, which is takes in a parameter of type
Google,
string,
string, okay.
and string we are passing Google. You can pass anything, pass whatever you want to pass, you can literally know.
So
then,
basically just opening the website, Google.
exactly. This line item creates the web browser. It just creates the browser. This will go and invoke the Google. Okay? There is also navigate to is also there to go to Google, but it's not extensively used.
So instead you go to Google, you can go to any website.
Any website. If you want to change this to Costco.com, you can do it. If you want to change it to Costco, change it to Costco.
Whatever project is.
Whatever the project is, yes.
So do we have other method than get to get?
Yes, there is a navigate is there for supported by driver too.
Uh-huh.
So, but it's not very popularly used. So it was built for some other purpose, though it can. What will happen is when you are on the web page, you want to navigate to different website and come back to that website. That time they'll use navigate.
Oh, okay.
So, but most of the time, at this point, assume that get is the one. If in interview access, in interview, if they question you, what method you use to invoke the URL, you will say which one you are going to say.
Yeah.
Get.
Yeah, yeah. So then, so if you another important thing you need to know is, for example, every time I go to any web page, like for example Google. Okay, you see this here? There is always a title associated to it. You see this? Welcome to Costco, Google, and if it's Amazon, all there is a title associated. Okay? So, for example, if you look at comment the line number 17 and run it, you can see the output. Uncomment the line number 17 and run it. It went to Google and they are not closing it. Don't worry about it. Print. Oh, I didn't print it at all. Okay. If you go back here, you should, what you are seeing here? Google. So if you noticed here, what this line item is doing is, the driver object, which is nothing but a web driver, there is a method called getTitle. This will go, these are all inbuilt method given by Selenium to us. We are not doing any implementation, remember this. This is like just a declaration, just we are calling that method, that's all. We don't know how to do what it will do. It implementation part, it knows how to go to the Google and look for that title and bring it for you. That's what we tried to print it in the just now, right? It printed the title. If you want, go in and run it until this point. And if you notice, this is I'm storing in a title variable and of object string. So I'm forming a string object here. Okay, then I'm using the system.out.println to print it.
So you're printing a string?
Yes.
Okay, string
Of
is
title. Of title.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you understand this, we'll go now understand how this get title is going and identifying that object or content and bringing the data for you. We can go and explore it.
So how many people know what the title is in this one, the last example?
Any questions on title? Go ahead. So
What
you
was
know,
the question?
do you know what is title here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it?
Raja?
Titles Google.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So and one thing is you are creating a string of string is an object, you know, right? So in this case you are creating a variable title of object string. Okay. So it's storing the value that is returned from the getTitle function. When I call a web driver at the line number 17, when I call the web driver, it go and with a method called getTitle, and on this session, driver session, it will go and fetch the value that displayed here in this. So now we'll explore how Selenium is able to identify this. Let's explore how it's identifying this. That is where the locator comes into picture. Let's understand what is locator. There are 8 kind of locators that you need to understand. This is nothing but like a spy that you do in UFT. Okay. So let's focus on those 8 now, and similarly you can do get current URL. These are all the things. We'll go there, and we'll explore further on this code. Let's go and understand first the locator. It's very key for the all this concept. You have to be clear. If you are not clear, please stop me. We'll spend more time here. Try to understand these locators that I'm talking about now. 8 locators. It should come to your mind default, because definitely in interviews they can easily identify whether you know the locators or not. If you don't know the locators, they know that you don't know the selenium.
Okay. So what are locators?
Do you guys already know anything about locators? No, at least in selenium, have you heard of locators?
No.
Okay. There are 8 locators. First with ID, name, link text, class name, partial link, tag name, XPath, and CSS. More popular in this is XPath and CSS. So we will go over in each of those and what it is. Let's explore. Okay. And I want you all do along with me, so that's the only way you get to know what it is. Okay, so before going to locator, let me explain about HTML. So you guys, what level you know about HTML?
0.
Okay, so if you consider HTML, you know, right? The DOM. This is where is all the if you want to access any web application, they need to follow certain standards. WW standards, WWW, you know, right? That's where the internet introduced web. So if you are not following this standard, it will not work. You cannot access any website. So it always starts with HTML. That's the root. This is called node or tag. If you go to XML, anybody knows about XML? What is XML?
Isn't like a syntax for I'm thinking like web.
Yeah,
website.
there is
It's like JSON almost.
exactly. It's a markup language. All these are like standards. Somebody has defined the standard. You follow the standard, you can access any files that in the web. Like especially XML is very popular in web services. Similarly, HTML has its own standard. It starts with a body, head, and also it's called tag. These are all called tag. Starts with a tag HTML, ends with a tag HTML. That's its node. This is one node. There's another node called head. Starts with head, ends with head. You see this? And you see the body starts with body, ends with body. And you can drill down further onto the body. You see this? There's a class, ID, this is a div, you see this? This is a tag. And ends with tag. And inside that it's called attribute. Nothing but it's a key to value. Key and value. We learnt key and value where? Do you remember? Key and value. Which concept gave the information for us on key and value? Array stores by index. We learned 2 more concepts.
Hashtag.
Exactly. Hash map.
Hash map. Second.
Yeah, hash map, when we learned that concept, right, in hash map supports the key value pair. Similarly, in HTML, they have the key value pair, also it's called attributes, which is stored between the tag. So, our Selenium script is nothing but it's using all this content to identify the object. So, if you drill down further here, you will see style, again another tag. There will be multiple tags like this. Okay? For example, let's explore let's spy one of this tag and see what is there. For example, I'm exploring Google search.
So you basically have tag inside the tag.
Exactly. There could be inside the tags. It's called like node, subnode in XML. If you're familiar with XML, compare this with XML. Same concept. There it's called a node, here it's called tag. So, you see, all there will be parent tag, child tag, further child tags. So all you can see, you see this arrow? If it's pointing to right, that means it's closed. If it's pointing to down, it's maximized. That means if I click on this, it's closed now. I cannot see what is there inside that. If you want to click it, you have to maximize. If you click maximize, it will bring all its content. So we were trying to explore Google search, right? So we spied on Google search. That's what it's highlighting. You see this? It's getting highlighted here, Google search. You see this here? This is coming from this portion. And as I told you, locators, there are 8 types of locators. So first is ID, okay? And you can see many places you see ID, and many places there is a name also. Let me go back. ID, name, you have link text, right? First let's focus on ID and name, okay? Okay. I just select the Google and in the search box that you have right where you type the content, I went there here. If I go and select this, it will highlight that. Okay. If you notice here, it has tag input. Always in the HTML, wherever you are feeding the input value to the website, it will be driven by input tag. So these are all standard tags. You will always see input tag. It usually takes even button also sometimes, links also. So there is a tag which refers to different URLs. I will talk to you about what is a reference URL. There is a reference URLs.
Do you call it A tag or is it ID tag?
This is in this case is an input tag.
Okay.
You see this?
Right.
This is an input, and it ends with input. Input tag, and it has class, some value. This is the key to value pair. This ID. I told you there is a locator. You can do it by ID, right? So let's go back to our program and see whether we can call that ID through our program to identify the object. What? This one, the edit box that usually enter the search, right? Let's see whether we can identify that.
It's called ID box?
That is called, it is identified by ID equal to LST-IB. You see this?
So if you just look at this code, how can you tell this is the,
Yes, that's what I said. There are 8 locators.
okay.
First locator is ID.
Okay, so
So-
basically this is the input one.
Yes.
So by default, this is the only place you can input something.
One minute.
Because you're
Yes,
searching.
exactly.
Okay.
One thing first thing is, first identify the object. You are trying to identify this object, list, where you provide the input. Okay?
Okay.
Select that. And it has various content inside that. Okay? You need to understand, if you don't, it's good to understand what it is doing, what is all its content, but from our standpoint, to just at this point, we are looking for ID. Can you find an ID here, locator? In this highlighted code, do you see ID anywhere?
After
First
the-
line.
After they
First
get.
line,
First line.
Yeah.
First line.
Exactly. You see this ID equal. If you see this, that means you can use this as one of the locator. Okay? And also there is a name also. I told you ID and name are the two locators. But if you noticed, Q is one letter. This can repeat anywhere. So if it repeats anywhere, your script will fail.
Why?
Because Q is a single word. It's not unique. Always locator has to be unique. Okay? So if we have, for example, let's look around if we find any more of those.
So Q by itself, what does it mean? Name equals Q.
Let me come back. Okay. So, see, when whoever developed this web page, right, he has followed some standards given by the company. Okay? Developer has created this HTML web page with the input provided by the STEAM or by the as per the specification. So, and this tag, input tag says it can be identified by, when he implemented, is saying I'm using a class called GSFI. He is calling the class. We don't have to worry this, because you might have these different names built by depending on the developer. They are given random names. In this case, he has given class as GSFI and ID as LSTIB. And he is saying maximum length of that field, input field, is 2048 bytes. And he is saying name of this input Q is equal to Q. Just now he is saying Q, that's it. That's the way he defined. So, you can use name and Q and you can try to identify the object. But I'm saying whatever Q is not unique because it's a letter, right? If anywhere is Q is repeated, it will not know which one to recognize.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Try to use a unique value that will identify this field. Which we are, at this point I'm thinking ID is equal to LST-IB is a unique to identify this object.
Okay. So Q is a placeholder?
Q is a value or name of that object.
Whatever object you put in the Google
Exactly.
search.
This is the object that we are referring.
Okay.
When I'm spying this. If I spy a different object, it will change.
Right.
In this case, name is BTNK.
Mm-hmm.
If I point to this, name is there is no name.
BTN.
Yeah, there is BTN9.
Uh-huh.
Right? All this are changing. So you can use the name also.
Okay.
But only thing is you have to ensure that it will be unique most of the time, so that you don't have to, your script won't fail. That you need to ensure. That's the key.
Okay. So each field that you're clicking up here, like the search fields, Google search, I feel lucky. Each one of these fields have 8 different locators that specify the field.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And you need 8 different characteristics to specify that field. And once you click on this one, it basically takes you to that section.
Exactly.
Okay.
8 characters, when you said 8 locators, right? There is 8 ways of identifying this object. That's what I meant. One is through ID. You can call your line of, you can code it in your script and call this object using ID.
Okay.
You can call it through name.
Okay.
You can call it through partial text.
Okay.
You can call it through, if it's a link, you can call it through link.
Okay.
Or you can use a XPath. We'll talk about XPath, what it is.
Okay.
That's all the ways of identifying this object. So let's understand with simple one-line call of LSTIB. Okay. I'm uncommenting this line item. No, let's not do this. Okay, let's do this. So if you look at line number 27, I'm using a driver object that I created line number 15. I'm creating a driver object, using a driver object. WebDriver supports find element method. WebDriver supports find element method. You see this? WebDriver supports find element method. It supports find element by. What is by? By is again another class supported by, given by Selenium. By is a parameter. Okay? So in your program you are saying you are using the WebDriver interface and you created an object earlier and you are calling the find method. In the parameter of find element, it's taken another object called by class with a ID as an identifier. If you notice here, ID is what? I told you ID is a locator. So of string, I found out the string is LSTIB from the spying in the web.
So that's the value?
That's the value I'm bringing here. You can copy directly from here.
Can you go back please?
Okay. Okay. So you guys are clear at this point, at least find element is a function, method supported by WebDriver. Then it has a parameter it takes a parameter, another object called by. By is a class. Okay, if you go and search here, what is by? Instead of WebDriver, you see this here?
Oh, okay.
It's a class name, class. So basically you are calling this by class, which in turn, it knows how to handle when you pass the ID of LSTIB.
Referring to the Google.
Exactly, which string you got it from the Google.
Okay.
Okay, this is the one which always changes when you use when you
It's up the driver that you.
which object you are element that you're testing in the web, that changes based on that. Okay, you are testing in this case I'm showing you for this field, input field. If you're testing for Google search, you have to update it accordingly. We'll do that. Okay, if I do it now, then so far I'm able to recognize the find element using this. Then I'm saying send key function supported by this object. I'm saying I'll pass the Selenium HQ org to the search box. Let's run this through and see what happens. You guys can also run it on your laptop. You saw that?
Yeah.
It went and typed that value into the edit box. Go ahead.
My program is fine up until WebDriver, and then it gives errors at the driver and every driver. So I did download the driver, but it's not showing. It's like giving an error there. I don't know.
Do you have the Chrome installed?
Chrome is there, yes.
So you are able to launch the Google, right?
With the program or just
From the program.
within the program?
Are you able to open the Google page?
Not within the program, I don't think.
Huh?
Let's see.
Can anybody help? Mavish, if you are familiar with the code so far, what is happening? Do you think help her to resolve the error? Anybody? Volunteers.
I think question is, can anybody else launch the Google code from there?
Yeah, I'm not able to.
I'm able to do it.
You able to do it? Bhavat?
Yeah.
So are you able to do it? Okay. So Rajan, Adil are having
It's not
challenge.
exactly
How about
I have.
Mona?
It's like it's not the website.
Okay.
Right,
So I see
You're
what
able
your
to launch?
code is maybe different.
You
may not have combined
I
it.
follow whatever you.
Well, it's giving me an error before
Perfect,
that,
this is
so
fine.
It wouldn't work.
So you may have code colored below also.
So are you
Can you
launching?
comment this out?
This one right here.
Okay.
Try it and save it and run it.
Let's try this one now.
Yeah, please.
So then HQ double. So you. Okay. So when you go into that website, then you start doing Selenium.
Okay. So can you launch it? Let's see what's happening.
I see it right here is where it gives the error.
Oh, error is there.
There you go.
An error is there.
That's what I'm
Okay.
saying. Is the drivers in the right
I
spot?
don't know why.
Comes back
Okay,
to this.
keeping capital, make it
It won't
small
stay
case,
there.
that's
Okay.
one thing.
Okay.
That's in the background.
Probably that's the only one I think, okay.
Because you didn't stop it at that point.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So
There's a
let's,
comment always.
how do you stop it? At that
Okay.
point?
Then it should
It
work.
should work,
Put
it
the
should
comment
work.
on.
And
Oh.
rename that to smaller case,
Small,
it should
okay.
work, it should work.
So what did you do here?
Yeah, I'll
The
talk to you.
first few lines of the
So
input.
we'll go by line by line. There was an extra line of code which I didn't
okay.
comment it, that's why.
Okay.
Okay? You guys are getting it at least how the object is getting created, how method is getting called, and so far what we did, we went and spied an object in the web and brought that ID value into our script and we tried to run it. That's all we did so far.
So what are we doing with this line package day 4? Is it commented out if you go up? You're not commenting it out. Okay. Someone is giving error saying that the could not find the node main class day 4 Selenium EX. Oh, okay. The Selenium EX1.
Okay, could not find the load. Okay, Selenium is one. And one more thing you have to notice, driver is smaller case. Okay? what I said, it's called the same directory structure. When you copied directly with Win2, 32, right? Right. Do not log this computer. Okay. If you noticed, all rest of us are having our Chrome driver directly under drivers. So if this is fine also, but only thing you have to ensure that path is changed here. Drivers, Chrome driver underscore Win2 / Chrome driver. That you need to change here. To change this, you type that Chrome
Well,
Chrome.
is yours working now?
driver
It's
underscore.
working?
Yeah, corrected one thing. I don't know.
Underscore,
He said
then
I
Win2.
have one line.
Yes, on the
Forward
line,
slash.
you can comment.
Okay.
They did remove it.
Forward slash.
I'm coming to those lines that there, it's still giving me
So
error
now
on
it's
those
like-
lines. Yeah.
If you want, you can change it to keep diagram, but I would recommend to keep same standard as well, so that means you have other issues also. So you can change, rename this to driver, smaller case,
The last line.
at least at this point I want to run it.
Do you have an error here in the web driver?
Change it, if you are changing it, change it in this server and here also, both places.
This line.
Could not find that look.
Okay, just.
Day four,
it's
selenium,
not
that's
scrolling.
Coming, this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
Not scrolling.
Okay, but WebDriver is still giving error. Does yours come out as error too?
You have,
No, I don't have any.
Selenium folder.
I don't know why.
So you have two folders here. So these are the things you have to.
I know.
I have it in the right spot. It's not
Nice.
doing it.
Maybe you have
The
one more
names.
line.
Package has to match.
Let me see, yeah.
Yes, 2 lines.
Okay? If it doesn't match, it will not, you see this? Now it should work. Cannot resolve the type Chrome driver cannot be resolved to type. Unresolved compilation problems.
The import one line at the top, those are the ones that are giving me error.
It was working great, I thought we ran before.
One here on the top.
Like the import, all those WebDriver, you know, those.
No, he did earlier, he's just erased it and typed it again.
Really?
That's what I did.
Oh,
It was weird, I thought this my computer is crazy.
okay. Let me try that.
Otherwise you will end up staying in all the places. Then you have source, therefore, just refresh your project. I need to close all of this. So that it closes all the things that you have opened. Then let's refresh it. When you refresh your always refresh the project to make all your change updates. Okay. Then it got updated and therefore.
For eyes,
It's not
better
showing
than
up,
2 eyes.
yeah, it's not showing up. We have 8 eyes between us now.
Double, double. Okay, so.
It's like not showing up at all, so I maybe I did something
I'm
wrong.
gonna just.
Let's see what it is here.
Check it out.
Find the main class, therefore,
Look.
Oh.
This. It's not. Oh, it's different.
Yeah, when I was typing it out, it wasn't showing up those options, that option, so something is missing.
Yeah, we had
Or
same
maybe
problem
this
for,
isn't working.
I think I'm missing whatever that is.
Whatever.
Maybe I didn't
Let's
download
see.
it right.
Hold on a second.
Okay, got it. I think it's coming from another class somewhere. Okay, we'll do one thing. We will create a new
There is this
Java
kind
file
of
copy there.
comma between the Selenium and Pi.
Oops, got it.
Got it?
Really small.
Okay.
Example one. And then we'll copy the code from here to there. I think because we have multiple place Java.
Like when I was
example
typing it
one,
out, it,
that could
when
be
I
the
did
only one
ORG,
which
it was
gets
fine,
copied
but
there.
then when I tried to look for OpenQA, it wasn't there.
Copy this code.
So maybe I didn't download something. Let me ask him too.
Yeah.
Thank you for your help.
You're welcome.
Let's run.
Okay, one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead. Anything.
One more thing here. Did you?
I deleted it because.
Okay, let's try it again.
Okay. But it's in the notepad also.
Okay, so let's see. It's here.
Huh?
I did like all the settings, go to driver.
What is error you're getting? Driver executable not exist. Driver executable. Chrome driver.exe. You have the Chrome installed, right? Okay. Okay. This is S is there is a driver. Just S is missing.
Yeah, should have known.
Drivers, should be drivers.
Could be.
Can I close it and launch it?
Okay.
Before that,
Maybe, yeah, I
so
don't know.
when the
Drivers,
Maybe something from
you should do drivers.
Yeah. I know.
That's it.
Yes, S is missing.
oh, okay.
So do I right click on the driver? Oh, okay, so I need to change this.
I'm not sure whether that could be Eclipse. Let's try it out. It's a very strange error. It's shouldn't be throwing that. Okay, so then you have
And then refresh. Refresh at file level. Okay, you need to close it and open it up again. Or may try running it, see if it catches it.
So close it.
You try running it, see what happens. There you go. You got it.
Yeah.
That was it?
So I'll just start now and then just work.
I think you basically just went on, close it again.
Did you try it? Eclipse? Did you try it in Eclipse?
Okay, focus. Okay. When you go here, something else should be commented out and it's not. Something is not commented out, so it takes you to the next level. So there's something down here. Is this for loop? I think you should comment that out.
Earlier you were able to
No, I
run,
think
right?
you commented
No?
about this
You're
one.
not able to launch?
Start.
The Google no.
Huh?
This one? Yeah, I think you commented that one out. Oh, right here, environment driver. Comment this line out, the driver line.
Uncomment or comment?
No, comment out number 34. Yeah, double slash in it. No, double slash, slash slash. Okay. Now run it again. It should give you,
Okay.
so then you
And some time on this.
So, that's it. Should have given, go ahead and type it in.
So how to like get the priority or the priority?
Okay, so you go and close this one. Okay, so you haven't asked to do the, so in here, it is doing this. Probably bringing the window equal here. Okay. Let me check the other code, find out what the other code is. So are you able to do that?
Yeah.
Let's look at your code. Okay, let me take a look. See. Okay.
That's give me some time, let me think towards the issue again.
You comment this and you run it.
When you run it,
yeah.
What do you got? So how you get the spy or object B?
Huh?
How
Yeah.
you get that?
So they want
So
the object
HQ. Okay, go ahead, close this down.
inspect.
Okay, so where is that? Get this living HQ code.
What is?
Oh, okay.
Jars.
No,
You got it?
do that way. Okay, restart it actually your laptop.
Right there.
Try to restart it.
I thought I
The right
finished
click
myself.
and then select the inspect.
Okay.
When I select inspect,
So it's not finding the web driver
Shows
again
up,
still,
okay.
even though,
Okay.
Let's go back to the window.
and I uncommented those, but, and then I changed the driver also to lowercase,
We had the,
but it's still coming up like that.
What are your
Okay.
okay. Did you click on this and see what is the issue?
Continue
Yeah.
down. Okay,
Again, problem like that sometimes.
Yeah. So create a class by packaging up, okay?
I wasn't sure if I should do that or what.
Yeah, you can do that, yes.
Right.
So creating the interface
I'm not sure.
by packaging.
Or which one to do, I wasn't sure which one would solve the problem.
So,
We come to simplest as he did. So let's take a look at what the red is.
Like when I tried to delete it and just type it out, it would give me org, but then OpenQA wasn't
Or
found there.
other way is also, if you don't want to, can remove this,
Okay.
Okay.
Why is it looking?
then it gives error here, right?
Right.
It's working.
Add
I
it
don't know
at
why
a
it's
time.
like.
Did you recognize?
Sometimes it comes if you click once.
Yeah,
Because we have to ask him about this one,
Yes,
because
that's-
right now it's looking at different ports. So ports may not be
But
set.
when I like hit around, so it's still working.
you don't work on
And
this
it's still
before,
working,
right?
so
Yes.
get you where you need to go.
Not
Let's see.
sure why.
So go ahead, see, open the other window, that was,
This one.
inspect.
This is
Yeah, go ahead and run it, and then you do the inspect.
You wanna sit down?
So,
Yeah.
Again one.
Can you give me the front, actually I'll use that chair.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about inspect.
inspect. Okay. Let's see, does it give you any errors in here?
Give me the ID.
So it shows you where you are.
left side here or there?
Okay, let's scroll down. Okay, I'm gonna go scroll down and go. Okay, yeah, never that tell me anything.
So it's like similar to.
I think it's good. I just don't know why you're getting these errors. But you're getting what you need to get. So just please say, okay, just be careful that next time you run something, you get into more errors. That may contribute at that level, maybe not at this level. Are you good? You good, Amit? Were you able to run this?
Yeah.
Could be with the path of the library
Okay.
files.
That's
It
what
was
I'm
corrupt,
thinking.
yeah,
Mm.
So when you run it, what do you get?
Yep. That was the issue. Build path.
Did I download it incorrectly or like put it somewhere wrong place?
No, yeah, it was, I think it was not
That's
set to
good.
right path. I went and manually added the build path
You basically going to the next
for
level.
all the libraries.
Okay.
It's
Because
showing the
what you're
all the
doing
libraries
is,
now. If you go to the,
go further down.
in plain, right,
Okay.
build path,
This one?
the.
Yeah, you're executing this one, that's why you were going to, so if you comment this one out.
This one all
delete,
invalid. I went and
double slash
manually
and
from
then
the
comment it
library.
out.
Okay.
You can try the running now.
Okay, why are these errors?
Okay, let's run
Or
again.
that's okay, that's okay.
That's a warning.
Okay, because we didn't use it, okay.
So far is good?
Mhm.
Okay. So let's move on.
Okay.
We learned with the ID, right?
ID.
We need to spend a lot of time on the XPath and the CSS, that's very key for us. So let's keep moving on. Let's try to see if we can use any of the name by name we can test with, okay? So, as per our code, we are using for BDNI, that is nothing but, let's see which one is BDNI. So, spy. Okay, BDNK, BDNI is, okay. So, other way of recognizing is, see, ID name may not work all the time. We need to XPath, we'll go to that locator, but at this point, we'll explore with a name now, okay? What I did is, I went ahead and spy on I'm feeling lucky, okay? And I got corresponding its code, input tag, and I'm feeling lucky, I told you, input tag contain not only input fields along with any buttons also. In this case, I am feeling lucky is just a button, and it can be identified by ID as well as a name. So there are other identifiers as well that we'll talk about how to use it, but at this point BTNI is a name. So in your code you already have a line code for that. Line number 30, you can just uncomment that BTNI, find element by name, BTNI, and then click.
Go back to C.
So you can do, you can all uncomment all these 4 lines and run it. Don't need driver white.
So what do you just?
Ignore this.
Okay.
Okay.
The driver
Go to the you line number 27. You we ran for the ID, right? Go and similarly uncomment 29 and 30. Suresh, hey buddy. Yeah, can I call you back? Okay, thank you.
So incoming 29, 30.
Yeah,
Anything
line
else?
29 and 30, uncomment that, we'll walk you through, let's run that and see what's happening. You are clear on that line, right, what it is doing? If you do have any question on each of that line, please let me know.
In 29 and 30?
That's still not working for you, right?
No.
Okay, no worries. Did you restart?
Yeah, I restarted.
Same issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Find element by ID GSR and find element by name
BTNI.
BTNI.
Okay.
Okay.
So-
basically looking for the two of those elements.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, anybody has a question on this?
These are called
Which-
locators?
These are locators. You can see ID, name. Let me do one thing. Okay, IDS we tried with BTNI name you are trying now. Okay, these are the locators, right? We also have ID, another one GSR. Okay. If you guys are, whoever is working, go ahead and run it. What it has to do is, it has to enter selenium.org, then I'm feeling lucky. You should click and take it to the next page.
Yeah.
It's working? Okay.
But it's, I'm feeling lucky.
Yeah. So basically, these are the ways of identifying the object. So we also have a link text and partial link text. So link text, what is link text? So if you look at the link text, right? Basically, you can go for any link. These are all the links. So you can go fully link advertising, or like for example, I used about here, right? That's a full link. But I also use the partial link. Advertise. I have not used advertise. If you don't know, like if its value of the link changes all the time, and if certain value of the link remains constant, you can use the whichever remains constant. Okay? Or like if in this case, advertising is not changing, it's going to be remains constant. Then you can use a full link. When I said full link, you can use a link text. When partial link text you use when there is a link changes. For example, in this case is advertising, assume that there is another link here, okay? It keeps changing based on the user logged in. For example, here if I log in and they give an option to sign out by my name, that keeps changing based on the user, right? So in those cases, if you don't want to restrict for that user, and if you want to work for all the users, you can use the generalized name. So just for showing purpose I have shown, even I can click these links using VERTIS in the locator called partial link text. VERTIS, this is one way of recognizing. If I don't want to do this, I can always do this. And it has to be case sensitive. If you have advertised, it should be matched exactly same like it is. Even a single letter, if it doesn't match, it will not click on that. I should have commented the previous one. It's not finding the advertising now, it will fail. I have to comment these two lines.
Okay.
And run this.
But when you uncommented 29 and 30, where were we supposed to get?
I'll walk you through. Yeah.
Okay.
See, if you look at here, right? When I uncommented it, it didn't come and click. I'm feeling lucky. Okay? It skipped this and instead it came and clicked on the advertising. Okay? That's what it did in this example. So you can still use this, but only thing is, if I use this click BTNL, it is taking me to different page where I'm not seeing advertising. You see this? If you noticed, if I remove this two, right? if I run this, I lost that advertising link as soon as I come to this page. This statement is not getting executed, it's getting failed.
Why is it getting failed when you?
Because it's not available in, when as soon as I click on executed this line number 30,
Okay,
which directed us to page called Abram Autolus, right? This is a web place where we don't see advertisement, right?
I'm filling out the part instead of
So
putting on the main Google page.
where is the console? Window, show console. If you look at here, it was not able to find that. It shouldn't find that actually.
can you guys see this?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. So element not visible. Which is the element you want to show you? Create session, template, Google Doc printed, title, revision, command duration, stack, create the exception for us.
No.
Exception name, the element is not visible, but it should show the name, why it's not? This particular element, it's not able to find, okay, advertising. Okay? So it should show that element line item actually, I'm surprised. We can do that capturing through our try and catch method. We can capture how to show that in output, but somehow in the output it's not showing that name for you to identify actually where it went wrong. Okay, that's fine. So anyway, so if you have, for example, if you let's comment this, see what will happen. Okay, so yeah, it's not the one that it's clicking on the advertisement too. Go to this Google. Whether you're able to see advertisement at the bottom. No, I don't see the advertisement. How come then it clicked on it?
So the advertisement is not available that you do on the front Google page.
But it's not throwing error also. It should throw error link text click. When I try to click cooperation, right? It should throw error for me. Let me see whether it clicks on the advertisement now. If I click on the advertisement, it has to take it to what page? Which customers when it matters? Okay? This is the page it has to go. If I click on the advertisement.
Okay.
You see this? It went to this page from previously, but I'm not trying to understand why it didn't throw error for me when this didn't get executed. Okay, that's one thing. And if the same way, if I want to do it on a partial link, I can do that. When I said partial link text, I'm not giving the entire name of the advertising, I'm just giving what is. You should still click on that. So these are the different ways of identifying the element. See, it went down. But only thing we observed is after kinking VT and I, somehow it passing through this also. It should fail at this point. But anyway, we know how to capture this fail point later stage. I will show you how to do it. But at this point, let's try to understand the concepts first. First thing we know how to identify, use ID, name, and link text and partial link text. So main important thing for us is class name. We don't use most of the time. You might use if none of the other identifiers, locators are not available for you. Because class can repeat in multiple places, that will cause a confusion for your script to which class name to recognize. But you most of the time, there is also tag name. We can use tag name too. So let's do the tag name and one example of class. Okay, tag name I have example of class. I didn't create for that. Okay, you can explore, that's fine. So on the tag name, let's do this. Get current URL, you can do this all. If you want to uncomment, you can uncomment. Doesn't matter. Maximize this to maximize the window. And this is the 1, 2 tag I'm using on the tag called A. Let's see what is tag A is there. This is the one important one that we need to learn. Then we'll go to the XPath. That's XPath. You will most of the time we will deal with XPath. So that's where I want to spend most of our time. So let's learn tag. Then we'll go to XPath. So on the tag, let's see what is the EA tag.
So what is tag name A? If you noticed in this, right, for business when I pointed, okay, it got a tag with the name A, okay, and it has multiple URLs referred inside that tag, which is referenced through key called hreference, okay, and if you notice all these are sub URLs, there are sub URLs within that hreference. So in order to access that, what I am doing here is I am creating a for loop. First thing, this tag name contains the value list. How do you identify that? Doesn't give you enough information with the list for you to understand. Let me see. I can take some other tags. Okay, anyway, which tag is LSDIG, right? Okay, we can go to that one. We should identify the list.
So, similarly, like on the tag, you can bring down all the values within the tag, whatever it contains of it. So in this case, a tag, I'm going with a tag. So what all is there under A? Not only this one reference, it will bring all the references. So I'll show you how it looks like. This one, comment it out. Just maximize it, and he clicked on the advertise, and whatever he passed it, just did it. I'm not closing the browser at this point, but it should give all the URLs for you. We'll walk through that actually what it did. Okay. So if you noticed here, by the tag, it brought in all the H references within the tag A, all the URLs. So that was there in that tag. So there are tons of, some of them are null, and some of them are like, these are all the, nothing but URL. When you click on each link, it's going to different URLs within the Google. So you can select this particular HTTPS and go to Google and search it, it will come up for your information. If you go to specific page. You see that? So these are all this is called H reference. So sometimes you may not ask to test this or ensure that all the Google H references are exist in this. So there are, how many are there? There are like 50, 60. So it's going to be hard to test each of those existence. So what you do is copy all this URL in the note somewhere in the outsole external data source. Like for example, if it's a flat file or anything, and if you Google, if a business team gives to you, you take that, run through your automation. Whatever it brings back from the web and whatever given by the user should match all the time. If there is any discrepancy, then you know that there some URLs are missing. So that kind of validation also you might have to do through automation. So, but from our understanding standpoint, what we are doing is, we understood ID, name we can do, and we are trying to understand now with a tag name. We understood link text and partial link text, and with a tag we tried to, when I executed this statement, actually it is returning as a list of URLs. So list is nothing but, it's a, do you remember anything about list? What is list? Do you remember last class we discussed to a certain extent with the list? No?
Interface.
Exactly. List is an interface. So I am trying list of web element, store it in a list variable. Nothing but it stores all the URLs that gets executed from these find elements. And if you noticed here, I am doing find elements. Earlier we did find. What was the function we used earlier? We used find just element. Find element brings only one element. Find elements will bring all the elements for us. This is list of H references, nothing but URLs. So this list contains now sequence of URLs, right? So I have to use a for loop to go through each of the list element by its position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on the what size of the URL, what's the size of the list, and I'm trying to print that one at a time. That's all. That's what I did here. This I use a for loop. If you are not clear about earlier what is a for loop usage, if you noticed here, I got all the links, 20, 30 links, stored it in a list variable of type object list interface. Then I called one at a time on the list by its position. I brought all the H reference and printed it. So when I said H reference, it goes here. What all H references are there on the tag A, it went and brought for me H reference as a reference here. So remember tag, how to use the tag? You will end up, when you are understand XPath and CSS, all this will become easier for you. So because most of the time you will use XPath or CSS. Tag name, you will use it to a certain extent, but not to the extent of other two locators. So you went one at a time and got all the results. Are you clear on the tag? Or you want to spend more time on this? Good, Raj? I know you are not able to execute. We need to look into it. Yeah, that's fine. So you can just join with Ali and just see the output. You're able to run, right?
Yes.
You guys are good?
So tag name all basically refers to a location which pulls information on multiple
Yes.
URLs.
Yes.
Is it
But
by default every single time or just in this case?
in this case, if there is a tag exists in the web, if there is no A tag, you cannot bring anything.
So is it pulling from advertisement or business or both?
This is for, see, this is for entire page.
Oh, entire
The
page,
entire
okay.
page for the tag. It's not for any particular. That's what I was trying to see if I can refer any particular like Google search. But Google search didn't add any tag. So I went and identified that I think I'm not feeling lucky or business got us the tag.
Okay.
So but there are tags of multiple cases. So it went and brought all of them for us. So
Well, so it's basically tag name has all the references,
that's a reference.
URLs
Yes, exactly.
from
exactly.
advertisement, business,
Yep.
Google search,
Yep.
I feel lucky,
Yep.
and whatever may be up there.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Okay.
Did everybody get that? Yeah?
Maybe,
Yeah?
sort of.
Okay.
No,
If you don't-
I want you guys to understand this because you will end up doing this. Even at home, when I give exercise for you, Google, I'll give Gmail work. You will go and for the Gmail, you will type your Gmail URL and you are going to recognize the objects and you are going to simple program and bring it next class. That's the expectation. So if you don't understand, please stop me here because we are going for XPath. XPath is very critical. That's where you use in your code most of the time. XPath or CSS. So these are simple locators for your information. ID name is commonly used. I mean, for if it's application is not complex, if it's very stable with ID name you can use. But some cases application is very complex. That time you have to use the XPath. There is an absolute XPath and relative XPath. Most of the time you'll use relative XPath, not the absolute XPath. We'll talk about it now. You good so far at least on these locators? We talked about? 5 locators?
So it's like you're trying to pull all the URLs from Google because you couldn't find it the other way around, or no?
You can pull just one X reference. You can do that. Href, you can do that.
Okay.
What we learnt is use of tag.
Okay.
What we learnt in this, not pulling any particular, we use of how we can use the tags in the Google. If you have a tag, how to bring the entire content of the tag.
Okay.
Okay, you can, if you want a specific element, you can do it. For example, if you don't want entire tag, and if you are looking for particular element like this, right? If you want to bring only for this class object, you can do that. You can do that. Class or you other way of you can this has only class and href. You can use the S reference here, but it has as an identifier through XPath, which we going to learn now. You can use, I think you can use ID also if you want specific element to be brought in. But what I am referring to tag is, it is going to bring you all the URLs that are there in that web page. That's what I just want to show you example. But you can use ID or name, whatever you want to identify the object. That's also fine. So, class name I will skip at this point because its usage is very minimal. So, because we hardly use with the class name, we'll go to the XPath, which is I feel is very critical for us to learn. Okay. Okay. Coming back to XPath. Okay. X path can be identified through two ways. You can do it through absolute or you can do it through relative. Okay? So, what is X path? Let's try to understand. You can also go open your script and you can also try along with me if you want.
You looking for the X path? Can you do Control F and find it or no?
No, it should X path should come up for me to populate here. What is Google? Google's activities. Interesting. Can you guys try, go to, try to under, it's just to do with my. Can you guys open this? Go right click,
No expert.
you're not getting it?
I checked the 3 or 4 example, but we got.
let's go back to PowerPoint and talk about XPath maybe.
Same setup, I think, because we did last time on for Fairfax. I did actually two modules. You can do that. It's adding up. Shouldn't be here, actually, it's not really a problem. It's strange. For none of you are getting it right. I'm just trying to see if this is.
Put the volume in, maybe.
And if suppose I want to find the XPath of particular text box that is shown over there. So I'm gonna click on inspect. Just right click on the element and click on inspect, and then it will show you these developer tools, and in there you can just right click on that particular element and then it will be highlighted in the page, and also you can go to the copy section and then you will find copy XPath.
There you
It
go.
is a copy expert. No, no. This one it
Or
gets a
copy
absolute
selector
part.
which will say, copy the CSS path for that particular element. So if you want to copy XPath, just click on copy XPath and then you can put it in the notepad like that.
That's fine. We don't want.
So this is the XPath for that particular element. This is how you can find XPath in Google Chrome. If you like this video, just hit a like button. Thank you.
It's like airline information. It's airline.
Okay. Copy this one.
Okay, so XPath is not shown. That specifies this is XPath.
Maybe they're not using it anymore.
No, I'm going to. It should be available for. We did this actually. That's why I didn't test it actually before the class.
For kids in the back. We can pick the kids ourselves. We'll pick ourselves.
Another way of doing it. Here.
Hey guys, this is a good example of when you're looking for new things, searching for new stuff. You got Google is your friend.
Yeah.
Anything new you run into when you go to work, Google it, search it.
Troubleshoot.
It doesn't matter how much experience you have, you still have to do
Otherwise,
searches on it.
Yep,
So
exactly.
this is a good example of how you can actually do searches.
Last
Five
class we
minutes.
did for in Chrome, sorry, in Firefox. It was easy, but in this case, copy text. We are using Chrome, right? Yeah, exactly, okay. You see this box at the bottom? Body face, you see, this is what I'm looking for. You see this? The highlighted one? surprised actually, I'm not, it's under elements, why it's not showing up? Under element, okay, body, oh sorry guys. Okay, body baked on HTML. Panel, press F12 to open the Chrome Tab tools. Elements panel, okay. We are in elements panel. F12 to open it. Let me see if anybody can help to resolve this one. Searching panel, okay. Saying Control F to press the Control F. Control F. Okay. Okay, got. I think we got it. Yep. Control F.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So let me say bring this and see whether it comes up. Google search. No, that's not. Is it highlighting? Not finding any object. Okay. This is the one. But search. Okay, so assume this is the exploit administrator. Expect. Exploit. Control F. Okay, finally. Okay, you guys see at the bottom?
Yellow highlighted area?
Yeah, no, what I did is, I went and identified element, use the right click, right? Copy, XPath, and I came and pasted here. Okay? So let me explain what it is mean.
So how do you know what is XPath?
Yes, okay, let's understand XPath, what it is. Dan went out, okay. So XPath is always used by referencing forward slash, okay? To forward slash. So XPath, when you said XPath, always remember to forward slash, then you can use star or tag name itself. If it's still able to identify, it's all up to us how to identify the object. As long as you type it, it says match, there's a match 1. Okay? There could be, if it is there are more than one match, it will show you 1 of 2, 1 of 3, 1 of 4, 1 of 5. Okay? So in this case, if you want to generalize this, if you noticed here, this is a syntax. Always you have to remember there is some certain things syntax for the XPath. I'll walk you through that. First thing is, you can refer by tag name. In this case, input. When I said input, it pointed out in a yellow and highlighting which field it's referring to. If you don't want to use input and if you want to generalize, you can use star too. Star is a regular expression. But only thing challenge you have is if we have a multiple input with the same ID name, then you will have a challenges. But anyway, it will show you here if there is more than one. We'll explore more, we'll get more options like that. But, okay, once that is done, there is this internal content, right, is another. If you notice here, I'm using a tag at ID. This is how you represent in the XPath. Let's go to the, we'll do one thing, let's go to the example here and understand. So that when you go in sequence, you'll understand what we are referring to.
So you're going through again, capturing the XPath.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we have to
Okay.
figure out, I guess, how do you get to the XPath? What does it do for you?
Okay. So first thing is, as similarly, first thing we identified by ID, name, and a link text, partial link text, and then we use a tag to identify the content, right? Similarly, you can also do the XPath. As shown in the video, you can go to piece of code, whichever you want. For example, you are trying to inspect. First, do the inspect if you want to understand. Do the inspect. Locate the. Okay, 1 minute. Let's inspect, and we got this. You can also do the right click on this code and go to copy XPath and paste it here. Okay? So this is the some places, if you noticed here, this is using here absolute XPath along with the absolute XPath. When I said absolute XPath, division 2, division 3, center and input 1. Google search, right? So let's understand what it is. So you have to be careful when you copy from the web page, because it will create an absolute path. This is not a recommended way of doing XPath. You should not always embed this entire tags in a sequence, because any tag changes by developer, it will screw up your script. So in this case, they're saying you can identify the Google search using a tag called db2, division 3, center and input 1. Let's try to understand what it is. Well, let me go back there. If you noticed here, center is a tag. That's what you are referring here. Center input 1. Input 1 is a Google search. If you change it to 2, it will highlight the next one. That is, I'm not feeling well. You see this? Yellow move to, I'm not feeling. I'm feeling lucky. Right? So if I move this back to 1, it is going back to the Google search. But if you noticed here, it is going by input, center and division 3. Division 3 is this. These are all like a nodes or a child of one child of another. Center is child of division. So one, and there is the division name, there are 3, more than 3. So which division you have to go, you have to specify with a number. So XPath has its own complexity when you go by absolute path. So if when I click on right click and copy it, it is giving an absolute path. So not all the time good go with absolute path. Okay? So you can can also do this by simpler way by absolute path. For absolute path, for example, Google search, you can do just this simple. What it does is, instead of this entire absolute path, I'm using input tag for double forward slash input and a big brackets. In the big bracket, I'm passing a key to value. This is a key you represent. Key is nothing but what? You remember? Key goes with value. It could be value, it could be name, it could be ID. You remember we used ID and name before. That's a locator. But in the XPath locator, you can also use ID inside as a value. And you have value also. You have area label. You have type also. These are the different keys that you can use within the XPath. Is equal to Google search. So I'm saying under input tag, look for value. I am not feeling lucky. In this case, Google search. But I can change that to I am feeling lucky also. That's fine. But it's highlighting this one. So this is the way you code it in your code. You copy this and you can build your XPath and identify the object instead of ID. You go back here. Where is the object identifying for an Google search, right? So assume that these are, you can change it. Driver. Okay, sorry, adding comment, that's fine. Driver dot find element. So copy this content and put it in the XPath section and save it.
Do you think format is correct? You think it's square bracket after the search?
It should go in string, wait in string, yeah. It can go in string. One bracket, two. Okay. To complete statement, I use semicolon. Okay. So XPath, you can use we tried with ID, name, then you can try with XPath as well. So similarly, you can do for as many elements as element you want. You can go similar way, try to go and change it here. You can do there are multiple examples like this in our 1 minute. Sorry guys. Like Google search, input by value, you can do replace with input with star. You can do that, or you can do the tag also. In a tag, if you are looking for specific text, you can look for advertising. For example, you can check this whether it's working or not going to Google. You can replace this. You all got this box, right? By pressing Ctrl F. Okay? So
Everybody got it? Control F? You're finding it? Okay, good.
yeah. So by entering this, you are highlighting this specific code. So if there is no match, it will not say this, it will say 0, 0. If there is a match, it will say 1. So you might get more than 1 and 2. That time you have to use in combination. For example, I'm using in combination in this case. If I get more, Google search and submit. You can use that also. This type value is all coming from the HTML code. All is within the input. If it's input, there's a type, name. You can do on whatever you value, but be careful which one you choose. Most of the time you go with type. Sometimes you go with value, name. You also go with label sometimes, text area and all. So there are various ways of identifying it. But XPath goes with // and a tag name. If you don't want to tag names, you can specify with a star. That's the one option you have. When you specify star, it looks for all the tags irrespective of any tag exists. Then it looks for the value. Or it looks for the, you can do the contents also. If you want to do by contents, value of feeling lucky, you can do this way also. And you can do text, partial text also you can do it. And you also have other options of doing it like value to Google search. There are multiple, I think we need to take more exercise of this.
Okay, so all the X path start with //.
//
Isn't
yes.
that a comment?
Sorry?
Isn't that a comment? //?
Yeah, // is a comment, but only thing you have to ensure that you put it in the string when you pass. If you notice, I'm passing in a string.
Okay.
For inspection, you can do it. For inspection, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay? But when you embed in your code and into the parameter, as a parameter, you have to always ensure that driver, if you are doing a find element function, then in the bracket, you are passing another, this is nothing but it's another object. If you notice, by is a class, XPath is a method, and it is taking a parameter. Entire thing is forming another object here.
Okay. So basically, this is the format we need to remember. That's
Exactly,
in the X path.
exactly. So you will learn more as you practice more. This time this is Google search, but I'm doing by value. If you want to go by something else, you can always try it out, changing it and trying it out. You can do that. So another important concept is CSS. So CSS, I have also embedded with the W3 schools. They have a good XPath examples to explore. You go to this website. Okay, there's a very popular school. Everybody uses that for the learning these languages. Another way of representing this in is CSS. CSS is a fastest way of locating an element, but most of the time you will end up using CSS or XPath. Good part about CSS is you will not use any kind of / or anything. You just specify the input. Only thing is you have to open this big bracket. You have to open this big bracket and put the value. It works similar to the XPath. You can inspect it. I don't think you can inspect it yet. Okay. So input value // if you look at, it's bringing Google search again. So if you notice, we did same thing for XPath too. Only difference is XPath uses the // Here you don't use / and the @. Only those are the only two difference. Let me bring that to you and show you. This is for the XPath, this is for the CSS. When I say CSS is nothing but a method, I'll walk you through that. There's we can call CSS method. Input // used for when used for XPath method, where you will use no / and no @ for the CSS. Okay. So similarly, you can use either tag or you can use the star in CSS. That's the one thing. Main thing for is because it's using more. People say this is more fastest compared to XPath while locating the object. So that's very important because you will be implementing a lot of methods to identify the object. So which you choose makes the difference. And it has its own syntaxes. In CSS you have $sign to find Google search, right? And if you want to search with search ends with you can use $sign. It will go and search for all the element that ends with search. And if you want to search for the Google, start with Google. It will go and search. You can use this. Copy this. Go and paste it in the inspect finder, XPath finder, and you will find it corresponding the code. Okay, and you can do the same way like this is start with, right? You can also do with contains Google. That means anywhere Google contains, bring those, check for those. So in this case,
So you basically different comparisons.
exactly. This
Like
is
dollar sign equals to,
this
greater
is
than
yeah,
equal to, and
exactly,
approximate
exactly.
equal to. I mean,
Exactly.
so what does the different searches basically mean? So just a value equals to single brackets. I mean, exactly this is what you're looking for.
Yes.
What about the value star equals to?
Star is equal to, see, this one is a contains,
Or something that contains.
exactly. Remember, we didn't talk about regular expression because the regular expression is another topic where if you use star, it goes and looks for all the contents. That's a regular expression. These are some notations that you can learn. We can learn about the CSS. So $signs looks for any word ends with this. It
Okay.
brings all these, and upper arrow looks for the Google starting place. So when you do this, if there are multiple, it will show up here more than one. If I paste it here, it will show more than one if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it will not show. Okay, then and another thing is you used ID, right? ID is equal to. So in this case you don't have to use ID at all. You can use hash to identify the ID. If you remember, we did ID test for Google search. No, we didn't for Google. For example, I am not feeling like lucky. ID is equal to GBQFFFV, right? Instead of this, I can specify like this. You should identify it. Copy this, go to Google and put it here. You see this? It identified that element. Instead of ID is equal to GB, I can put a hash and I copied the ID content and it said identified one. So similarly, you can bring up as many you want based on the, but you only need to know what all the CSS supports, this locator supports. So if you want to know more about this, go to the web page I showed you, Google it, you'll get more information about it. We'll do more exercise of this, but if you want to explore more of this, you can go and do it. Add find by CSS. Instead of this, if you don't want to go and understand in Google also, locators. We'll do more exercise of this. I have a couple of within touch base alert X and mouse over where I used this XPath and CSS to understand. So we'll spend more time on that. But only thing is we need to play around with this, because every time there will be new things to learn for us. Okay? Sorry, I have to stop at this point because I need to take my son to soccer. So I think they're outside. I have to go to Alexandria now. So I will continue this next session. We'll spend more time on this. Huh?
Okay.
You guys are getting it? Huh?
Yes, but just a little bit the last part, the XPath, because we don't see it clearly. That's
Okay.
what makes
Okay.
it a little bit
You basically
hard.
go into a couple of layers.
Do one thing. At home, what you do is open the Google. Okay?
Mhm.
Go to inspect. Okay? Then what you do is go to the notepad that I sent out with a name called session 4. Okay? In that, if you go all the way down, I have tried out all this as to test with. Okay? So what you do is take each of these. Okay? I have value in this case, right? Google search. You can change this, copy this, paste it here, and keep changing it to different value.
Didn't copy it from there.
Here you have Google search, right? Identifying it. If you have any other element, for example business, see whether business comes with a value. It may not be there, but I'm just trying it out. It doesn't come any value, right? So because it's a link, right? So what you can do is you can look for any value kind of thing, and you can we did for value. Let me see whether any other example you have. This ID is equal to name, complete, and value. Okay. Center value is equal to Google search, or I am feeling lucky. You can change it to I am feeling lucky. I am feeling lucky, right? Feeling lucky. It has to match exactly the same, otherwise it will throw error.
I think you,
Let me copy this as it is. Even there is a single space, it will not recognize. Okay, it's not bringing up. So we'll use string put. Oh, sorry. I have to use the bracket there. I have not use the bracket. Oh, I didn't use the bracket.
yeah, use the right.
Okay. Input, let's see. It's not bringing up, right? It's not recognizing that value. Okay, that's okay. What else should recognize this input value?
Should we do star input?
Copy the XPath and see what is there in that. It's going by ID. But value should have recognized actually. I'm not feeling lucky. Why it's not interested? Oh, got it. It's 1 second. Let's try here. One. We should have.
You gotta take out the other,
Code should be there.
the quote, second quote, not the
Got
line.
it. This quote is make me the problem actually because it has quote here.
And
It is not recognizing it.
so it's,
Yeah, because it's
Funny syntax.
that's the syntax to identify the content. Interesting. Okay.
so
So-
maybe look for Google search or something else.
Yeah. So what we do when we do XPath, I copied other one. Come on. Control F. Okay, I use this. So this should recognize one at least for us.
You can say approximately feeling lucky, or something like that, right?
So it recognized, right?
Yeah.
So the main thing is they use the single hyphen I am, right? That single quote is used for the wait a minute, why don't we try with string? Let me do this. 1 minute. We should be able to identify that. Single quote we can try with single string also. 1 minute. Let me try with string. You see this? It identifies multiply by string. So it got it now. So this is a way you to play around with it, identifying the object. So, but XPath and CS is very powerful. Any objects, most of the only cases we have seen where if a pop-up appears from Java, which cannot be recorded or identified by through XPath, that there is an inbuilt method they have given to us that we can use and do it. But most of the time, you will come and do this approach to identify an object. I know some of you guys are about to sleep there itself. Just kidding.
How do I solve this?
You live 65 miles away from me. Okay. I'm thinking whether I can drop your laptop later. But do you come this way anytime, weekdays now?
License.
Where do you work, like in this area?
I work Tyson. Yes, I work at Tyson.
I can pick it up from Tyson.
But I work, yeah, if it's, where you, is it Tyson here or Ashburn here for you?
Tyson.
Tyson? Okay, then I can come to my office anytime. When I'm in office. I'll be going to office on Tuesday, Thursday and Friday.
So you want me to just come there?
Just 1 minute, okay? I know.
So you gotta go. Understand.
Yeah.
So you can pick up the laptop from Tyson's on Tuesday?
Yeah, I can, if you can pick from office, sorry for that. I think I'm not sure what is going on with that. I have to take a look. Huh?
Okay.
Can I take your laptop and the file? And write to your password. If you have a password, let me know.
There's no problem.
There's a trust mechanism.
Just play around with whatever you have learned so far. Huh? Try to identify more objects in Google. Add your one or two example. If you can, I have assignment given. If you can do that, well and good. Otherwise, we'll continue. We'll spend more time on that. This is where you are. So most of your work.